I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is April 25th, 2022, and in this video, I'm going to go over some methods I use to create 3D printable stamps using Fusion360 and OpenScad. Okay, first some URLs, then we'll jump right into this. So, first of all, I've already put some stuff out there as a template to use, and the idea, it's out there on Printables, and here, I'll put a link in the show notes, but here it is. And the idea is you can reuse as is, but use the OpenScad to import an SVG and kind of put whatever you want on it and adjust a little bit so you can make your own stamp. So, and I did a video on that. I did a video on that. So here's a link to the video so you can go watch that. And that's the idea, is you can use it as a template. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to make it from scratch. In which case, it's not going to probably be the exact same, but you'll get the idea. And also another link, I'm using something from, let's see, fontawesome. This little code block, it's just an SVG file that I'll kind of use to make a new stamp, which is kind of a cool stamp. Okay, with that, let's get started. So first of all, we'll just do the Fusion360 work, because we're going to do a couple of things in Fusion360, and it's not going to be, well, I'm not going to publish what I'm making here, because I'm probably not going to use the exact dimensions, so it'll probably be a little different. So, first thing, public service announcement. If you're using Fusion360, and you're unfamiliar with this, if you haven't done this yet, you got to do this one time. Go under your account, go under preferences here up in the upper right, and there we go. And then in general here, you'll see this default model orientation. I think the default usually is Y up. You want Z up, otherwise your model is not going to be oriented correctly on the bed. It'll be at a 90-degree angle and you got to fix it afterwards. You want Z up because you're 3D printing, which also brings up a pet peeve. When you're orienting models, orient them as if you're ready to print. There are some people who actually put them on 90 degrees, then you got to fix them. Of course, that's less and less so these days. So most people are doing them correctly. But then I did come across some models, I forget which one, where it was done correctly-ish, but then it was rotated like facing the back. So example, let's say someone had a dragon. Well, I want that facing me as it prints, not facing the wall, so I had to rotate it 90 degrees because I'd rather see it, you know. Okay, so with that, we got a new, let's get started. We got this. I'll right click on here, say new component, because it's better to say new component, and give it a name. And this one will say stamp, what do I call these things? I got a, anyway, I'll call it stamp handle. We'll call it stamp handle. Boom. Click on this, we'll do origin, and we'll create a sketch. Well, let's see, we can create a sketch in this plane, because we're going to rotate it in this case. And so we'll say, we'll hit S brings up your shortcuts. And here you can add more shortcuts. So you can go search for something, add it in here. I'm going to use the line tool, so I didn't actually need to bring this up. So I'll press L for line tool, and then click on here, and we'll come out to the side here, and I'll say, I'm going to make a diameter of probably, well, hey, you know what? I got little miniature calipers I made, so I can kind of think about that. So I'll probably just make it, we'll make it 10 to start off with. We'll make it 10. So in that case, the radius will be 5, and we'll do that. Hit L again to do the line, and then we'll just say 10, and stop. Okay, cancel. Okay. So what do I want to do? Well, we'll make this oversimplified. Boom, boom, boom. Ah, okay. I had to think in my brain what I did. Okay, so you'll do like, well, you know what? Let me just undo that. Undo. We'll bring up this, and I'll bring up a 2-point rectangle. That happens to be in my shortcuts, but if not, you go look up 2-point rectangle, and you can add it to your shortcuts. I use a lot. And I'll select here, and go out here, and I'll say 5 for the radius, hit tab to choose the other one, and then we'll just say 8. Now this one's not going to be precise, so we'll do that, and then I will click on here. Of course, I guess I didn't have to do it this way. I could have just done a simple cylinder. But we'll say finish sketch. I'll hit S to bring up my shortcuts, my 3D shortcuts. Now I'm in 3D. I'll use the revolve, click on that, and then I got to select an axis, and I'll select that axis, and there we go, we got this new body. Then what I'm going to do is I will select on this plane here, and I'll say, cancel. Select on there, and I'll say offset plane, And I'll say an offset plane of, we'll just say 15. 15, right click on that, say create a sketch. And what I'm going to do now, I'll bring up my tools with the S but shortcut. And I have a circumscribed polygon. And I'll click on here, and I'll say I want 6, and I'll say, we'll say 10. So again, this is not going to be precisely what I did, it just kind of gets the idea. Then I'll finish that sketch, I'll click on here, and I'll say Q, and I'll bring it up, we'll bring it up 8. Okay, this is going to be, oh, you know, I want to bring it up a little more. So I'll right click down here, now that I've done that, right click on here, edit that feature, and we'll say 15. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll create another offset sketch. Yes, I'll create another, oh, not sketch. I'll say create a offset plane, and I'll drag it way up here. We'll just say 40, just to make sure we're way above. Right click on that, create a sketch. Hit my S key to bring up my tools. I'll do another circumscribed polygon, but this time I'll make it a 7. Boom. Okay, now I got that. I'll hit finish sketch, and then what I'll do, if I'm in 3D mode, I'll hit S, and I don't know if I have this as an option. I don't. Let me see. I think it's the loft. There you go, loft. Now, if you don't have an option, if it's not already in your shortcuts, you can search for it like I just did, and then click on Add to Shortcuts, and now it's in my shortcuts. So I'll do this loft, choose that. Now I got this little nice loft. Hit OK. And then what I'll do, hit my S key, do loft again, choose that underside, and then choose this circle, and it will kind of make that circle. So this looks completely hideous compared to what I actually did. But you get the idea, because that's similar to what I did, although my stem's a little longer. The dimensions are all wrong, but the idea is here. Okay, and lastly what I'll do, in 3D mode, I'll hit S to bring this up, and thread. So I'll click on that thread, and I'll click on this small circle down here, cylinder, and I'll come over here and say modeled. I want it to actually be modeled. And over here I got some choices. It'll default to the size, 10 millimeters, that's fantastic. But I can change the thread. I can make it, you know, more threads per inch, which I don't want to. I kind of go 1.5 is nice. I usually leave just 6G. If you want to get into details, there's interesting stuff on learning about threads is always fun. Okay, so I'll hit OK on that. And then one thing I have found that helps a lot is this thread. The tolerance on 3D printing is not exactly as good as it could be. If it was perfect, this would work perfectly. But also, there are some issues when you thread, so once you actually print out the threads, you kind of, you end up self-tapping them with the other guy. But to help this out, what I do is I select this little plane here, hit Q, and then I bring it in a little bit. Usually I'll do like a, oh, doesn't like that. Yeah. Hit S key, oh, let's choose it again. Hit Q, and we'll say, oh, it doesn't like me today. Oh, negative point, I'll just say negative 0.2, and see if it's going to be happy with that. Oh, it's not gonna accept that one. Oh, because it's wrapping into that probably. Okay, so I have to figure something out here. Let me undo that. Maybe I gotta split it. Okay, well, I'll shut the. I could probably redo this. There's probably a way to fix it, but I'm not going to try to fix it right now because I'm making a video. But the general idea is I need to get this in such a way, and it normally works, but I need to probably adjust my model a little bit, where I select that, press Q, and pull it in about negative 0.2, and that pulls it in just enough to give you some more clearance without really messing up the threads too bad. But right now it's being a bugger to me with this model, but trust me, it usually works. Okay, so now we got that. We'll just hit save. And I'll just say video stamps, boom. And now the nice thing, now that I made this and its own little object here, I can right click on here and say save as mesh. Save as mesh. I got it. Life is good. Now this one, although it's really hideous and I wouldn't use this, it's a done deal. So I don't need to do anything. I'm not going to open this in OpenScad. It's just done. But now I need to make the threads that I'm going to use in OpenScad. So if I, just to make sure, I'll get my brain, I'll edit, look at that. Okay, we got a diameter of 10, just to refresh my mind. I'll go here and say new component. And we'll say, we'll just call it thread for stamp, right? Boom. And now I no longer want to see this one, so I'll unselect that, so I don't need to visually see it. Do the origin, and then I'll right click down here, say create a sketch, reorient it, boom. Press the S button to bring up my shortcuts, and I happen to have circle in there. Or you can see center diameter, see that little C on the end? I could have just pressed C. Some of them have their own hotkeys. A lot don't. I guess rectangle has R. Okay, some do, some don't. But I just got used to using this. Don't do that. S, boom. And we'll say 10. And then we'll also say, we need a bigger one, so we'll say, not too much bigger. And we'll say 15. Just for the video, we'll make sure our life is easy. And then I'll hit Finish Sketch, select this guy, hit Q, and we'll pull it up. We'll just say 10 for now. Well, how about 8? 8, boom. And then S, do the thread again on the inner wall, do it modeled, hit OK. Then we want to fix that plane a little bit, a little thread. Select that, press Q, negative 0.2, should be good. So now you see that worked. So I like to do both threads. Negative 0.1, negative 0.2, it seems to work. Now the bigger the thread, the bigger I go, so like a real big thread. Like I'm working on this Moai giant statue, and I think I did negative 0.3 or negative 0.4 on both ends just to make it smooth. I haven't printed it yet, so I'm not sure. But just makes it simpler to latch onto there. Let's see. Another thing, which I didn't do this, but I'm starting to do this. Let's do this. I'll right click on here and I'll say, what do I do? Oh, this guy is going to be printed upside down, so this is the side I'm concerned about. So here's something I just started doing, which is helping a little bit when you're trying to put stuff in, which I didn't do this before. So I'll go down here and say, let's see, create sketch. So I'll create a sketch down here, hit my S key, do my circle, select that. And now with that thread, I want to make sure I'm bigger than that thread by a little bit. So we'll say 11, boom, finish it. Then I'll select, now from 3D, I'll select that. So I've got that whole area selected, press Q, and then just go in a little bit. Like negative 1, hit enter. And that just kind of helps it, it helps to guide it in. So I've been trying that and it seems to work, but I didn't do that in the original one, so it's a little improvement, right? Okay, I think we're good. We'll save it. And I'll right click on here and say save as mesh. So hit OK. And where did I put you? Videos, let's see, create stamp, 3D prints. There we go. Okay, so there's the Fusion360 part. Now we're done. We should have this object and we should be good to go. So now let's bring in the OpenScad. And let me make sure I have my cheat sheet over here, because I'm sure I'm going to forget a few things. Okay, so cheat sheet. Cheat sheet. Okay. So over here I have an FN200. I like to set the default there. That's just the way I do it. The lower it is, the lower it gets become more polygony. The higher it is, it looks smoother, but it takes more time to render. So first of all, let's just import stuff. So we'll say, we'll call it the stamp. It's like I call it the stamp nub. And I'll go find the file name. Call it thread for stamp. Boom, 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 boom. Just make that a variable. And then we'll come down here and looks like I made the nub height and the nub radius. The nub height, I think it was actually 8, so I might be off on that. 8. And the nub radius was 10. Yeah, we did that, right? Oh, well, we made it a little bigger because of the bottom there. So we'll say 15. Okay, we'll make it, what did I say? What did I say? Yep, I made it 15. That's just so we can know that and reuse that information later. So now we'll come down here and import. Boom. So we'll make a module down here. So we'll say module, and we'll call it, I call it nub import. We'll call it nub import. It doesn't need any variables because we're just importing it, and it should be centered. We'll give it a color, red, and I'll change the alpha to 0.5. That's why it's a little see-through, potentially. And then we'll say import, stamp, nub. Well, I guess I could pass as a variable. Center equals true. Boom. I guess I'll pass it in as a variable. Boom. Now, if I run it right now, it's all it has is a module, so nothing's going to happen. Okay, so come down here. Boom. Now we should have a nub. Sweet. There we go. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, let me copy and paste some of these variables. We have a wrapper rectangle. So we're going to wrap this rectangle around it. I put a rounded radius in there, and we'll go over that. And then the actual SVG file, which actually is not a Corgi one this time. It is called Code Solid. Code Solid SVG. Here's the adjustments, because that's we're going to have to move it around. Don't know how yet, and we'll have to scale it. I'm not going to scale it yet. And then how high you want that ridge height on addition, but we'll leave that as is. So there's some of our variables. And so next we want to actually create that. So we're going to say, what are we going to say? Also, I've been doing a lot of, well, I'm not going to do it in this video. I do a lot of bifurcation now, but I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to do it today. Nope, so I just hit the mic. Okay, so we have the nub, and then now we are going to, let's see, what do we call it? Rounded square wrapper. So I'm not going to pass anything into it yet. So I have a module, and we'll say rounded square wrapper. Boom, boom. Make sure that runs. Okay, it's not going to do anything special. But now we have that rounded square wrapper, and we'll send the SVG file to it, obviously. Boom, and we'll send the adjustment, and we'll send the scale, and we'll send the ridge height. But then also we do need to send the nub height and the nub radius. Nub height, nub radius. Oh. Boom. Boom. We'll put that on the same line. Nub. Just like to do clean code. Okay. And we'll pass that in up here too. There we go. Okay, so now we have all the variables we need. So now what are we going to do? We are going to, we have the wrapper. We have the wrapper rectangle. So we have to adjust it. So we're going to use, we want to round it. So we have this nub radius. Well, first of all, we could just do a square. So we can just come down here and we can say, we say square. Even though you can make a rectangle with a square, they should have just technically said rectangle, right? So we could say square, and we could pass in the wrapper. Why is the wrapper not in there? Oh, well, we'll put it in there too. Sorry, I forgot one variable. The wrapper rect. Okay, so if I put that in there, we see we have that. In fact, I'll make this whole thing white. White, boom, with an alpha 0.5 for now. Boom, boom, boom. And now for argument's sake, we'll say center equals true. And boom, we got something that if we extruded it, it would kind of work. But we want to do a little bit better than that. So what we're going to do is, I don't want this rectangle, but I'll leave it up for a moment because we're going to go show something else to show that we're doing it correctly. 0.5. Okay, is we want to use hulls. We want to use that radius because we kind of want to make it, we don't want to make the edges sharp and have some kid poke himself. So we're going to round them off. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a circle. And we're going to make it based on the nub radius. We got that nub radius, right? So if I do that, we should see a little thing pop in. Oh, I made that huge. Okay. That seems really big. Oh, that's why. Because the nub radius is not, okay. Drop it back down to 10. That's much better, okay. So we got that. Now we need to move those things around, but we're going to use that wrapper rectangle. However, if we do this simple one, so I'll do this really simply. We have an X. We want to move it X over and negative X and Y and negative Y. So we're going to make some variables here. So to make our life convenient, we'll say, we're going to do it slightly the wrong way here. So we'll say wrapper rectangle, boom, the first variable, right? And we're going to, we should divide it by 2. Well, that's what in theory I should have done. Yep, divide that by 2. Divide that by 2. And that's just the 0 is the 0. For those who aren't coders, we start counting from 0. So it's the 0th place, which really is the first place in human speak, but we use 0. Okay, and this will be the second one divided by 2. Now we have our X and our Y. And we'll translate this guy. Because what we're going to want to do is we'll move him over X and over Y. And something didn't like on line 42. Oh, sorry. We got to put that in brackets. Okay, so there we go. Now, there's a problem you notice there. Well, let me put them all in. Let me put them all. So that's that one. We want to put in 4. Boom. And so we'll have negative X, Y, negative X, negative Y, and negative Y. So we get all 4 corners. So now in theory, cool. But you can see, if I intended to only be as big as the rectangle, I would have made it too big. So here if I do a hull, which is a nice way to put them all together, we'll indent that. It's too big because the center of that circle is here. I need to move that center in so I don't get this giant size. I want it to be the size I told it to be. So what we got to do is we got to come back here and we remove that nub radius. Remove the nub radius and remove the nub radius. And hopefully, boom. So now it's a little too small, but you can see it's correct. It's hidden within those dimensions. But we'll make this bigger. We'll make that, 30. Boom. And the idea is you can come in here. Why it's a template is you can come back in here and change it to whatever size you want. If you want something more square, more circular, or even you could do something like this. You could do, in the one I have out there, you could say 50 and 50, which gets you a square. But you come here and change the radius to 50 as well. Oh. No, 25, right? And you effectively turn it into a circle. So there's a trick there, right? With the way I wrote the code. Okay, let's get that back to something more feasible. Okay, so now we can remove this. I don't want to use the blue, so remove the old square because I don't need that anymore. I just wanted to show that as an example. Boom, so now we got that. Now we have to do a linear extrude on the whole thing. Linear extrude, kind of like Play-Doh. You're just kind of squeezing it up. Okay, so now we'll go, and we'll say linear extrude. What did I want to do? What did I do? I did a linear extrude. Nub height. Okay, I just called it nub height. Okay. Boom. So that barely gets me to the top of that. Which is fine, but I think I need some more space. Okay, why did I do that? That's a good question. Well, I probably made the actual nub smaller. Let me change the nub height to give myself some space above it. Boom. Okay, now I got some space above it. That's what I. Well, no, I did it exactly like that in my other model. Oh, you know what? I closed the other one off. Okay, the other one, I didn't just merely do a thread. I actually closed the other one off so I could match it. This case, I didn't do that, so I need to add some extra height. My bad. Okay, there we go. But now, if we would render this, in fact, let me render it right now. Let's see if it goes quickly enough. We got a problem because this guy is solid. So we just basically made this giant chunk, and we erased all aspects of that guy down here. So what we're going to do is we have this linear extrude. We got that hull, and what we'll do here is we'll do a difference right after the hull, but before the linear extrude. I mean, you could do it afterwards, but why? Okay, so we got the hull, and I'll come down here and I'll say circle. And that circle is going to be the radius of the nub radius. And minus just a little tiny bit. Like if I did that as is, it's precise. Oh, you know what? I can't quite do that, can I? I have to add it back in. Because I didn't make it. Well, let's go back and fix the Fusion360. This is a good example. Okay, so we have that. And the nub radius is obviously too big. Oh, rounded radius. You know what? I'm using the wrong one. I need to be using the rounded radius, not the nub radius. Oopsie. Okay, a little bit better there. Okay, we got the nub radius, which is a little on the big side. Why are you on the big side? Let me drop that down to 5. Okay. Let me drop it down to 7.5. I think that's right. Yes, because I have 15. Okay, good. But then, since I have a little bit of, I kind of want to make sure I'm overlapping and not having something incorrectly done there. So I'll just say minus 0.1, just so there's a little bit of an overlap. Now if I render this, I'm close. I'm close. Okay. You see, I've got it kind of like I want. I got the little nub there, but you know what? I need to go remake what I made in Fusion360 because I want to close the top. So we'll say 10. So we're going to make it a nub height at 10. Let's go back to Fusion360 here for a second. Okay. What we're going to do here is we'll go here and say create a sketch at the top. Well, I don't need to do that, do I? Never mind. No, I may. Well, sometimes it gets funny when you're doing threads. So select, let's not do that. Go back just to 3D mode. Select both of those, hit Q, and go up 2. I think we're good. I think that'll work. Save that. Save as mesh. And I'll go overwrite the old one. And now that it's updated, if I go over here and refresh this, boom. We're closed over. Yay. Now if I run it, it should look good. Hooray, there we go. Okay, so the last thing we got to do, we got that rounded edge, we got to do the SVG file. So we'll say, well, I'll just say here, stamp SVG, which will of course take in the SVG file. But it's also got to take a few other things. So it's got to take that SVG adjust. Speaking of, I shouldn't have sent all those in there. I did not need SVG, adjust, scale, or stamp bridge height. I didn't need any of that. Let me remove those. Remove those. Comment this out for a second, just to make sure we're okay. Okay. Okay, we got SVG height, SVG scale, boom, and stamp bridge height. And I also need the nub height. The nub height. Boom. We'll come down here, we'll do a module, stamp, SVG. I'll just copy it. Copy that. Okay. Then we'll come down here and say import SVG file. And that's all we'll do, just to see what happens. And it might be big and in an awkward place. It's a little on the big side. So what we're going to do here is we'll do a scale. And we'll pass in the SVG scale right now, which right now is 1. So it's not going to change it. So it'll do, but then we'll come up here to where we have the scale variable, and we'll say 0.5, which is probably still too big. Well, let's make it too big. We'll say 0.4. Oh, and also we should be I think we can do center. Let me see. Center equals true. Okay, perfect. That makes my life easier. Let's center it. And let's make it that big. So that'll be fun because that'll force us to adjust either sides. Now another thing we got to do is we got to translate that guy. Boom, boom, boom. And now our translate, we have this SVG adjust, which we already have an array, so we don't have to split it out or anything. We can just come down here and say SVG adjust, and it should adjust it, but we're not moving it. So, but if we needed to, we could say 100, and it would move it up. But right now, it's centered. Life is beautiful. We don't need to adjust it. But there's another thing we need to do. We need to, we can do one translate, but I'd rather do 2, just so we don't, just to avoid confusion. There's the first translate, which is X and Y. The other one, next translate I want to do is in the Z. So I'll say 0, 0, and then for Z, I'll just exaggerate, put a 10 for the moment. You don't like that. Oh, it needs to be an array. There we go. Boom. Which actually is correct. What I want really is the nub height. So I'll say nub height minus 0.1 because I kind of want it to be inside of it. Boom. And then we'll say linear extrude. Boom. And here we'll use the stamp ridge height. Boom. Plus 0.1. So I'm shrinking it down so it kind of is inside either guy and then bring it back up 0.1. He says hopefully. Oh, you know what? I got to reverse these. You can't. Linear extrude will only go from the bottom. That is my bad. So we got to put this here and put the translate there. There we go. Did that before. Okay, last thing we got to do is now if we want to really make this stamp this big, we got to make it bigger. So I'll come down here and say, okay, is 100 big enough? Yeah, it seems to be. Is 60 big enough? Oh, not 600. 60? Not quite. 70. 80. Oh, 80. Boom. There we go. Okay, now I got a really big stamp. Okay, that's a really big stamp. Well, it's big enough. So there we go. So we'll save that, render it, and I should have a stamp. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. So there's the basic idea how to do a stamp. Now I'd tweak. I'd probably make this. I'd have to go see what I did for original threads. It's probably bigger than what I made, and also my handle's a little off, but the idea is there. The idea is there, so you can follow along and make your own. And then when you're done, of course, save the STL file off. Boom. Okay. And okay, there's the whole shebang. So that's basically how I did it. And I hope that was helpful to someone out there. Okay, with that, let's wrap this up with a reminder that 3D printing is an engineering adventure that you're on. You can develop your skills and knowledge, and you can take this in so many ways. You can make a business out of this, you can teach others, and you can make amazing designs. So design it, engineer it. My Prusa Mini's bed thermistor just gave up the ghost. It's been over 2 years, and it's the original bed thermistor. So I'm pretty happy with how long it's lasted. I usually have some spare parts around, but I do not have this one on me. I have one for the i3 Mark III, but it looks like they're not compatible. So I just put an order in, hopefully I'll get it in a few days, and I'll probably do a video on that, because that's probably an interesting repair to watch. So if you have a Prusa Mini, you might want to add this spare part on your next order just in case.